Well, welcome, everyone. For those of you who may not know me, I am Joshua Hall. Um, I am the Senior Writer and Events Marketing Manager at TechPoint. This is my 18th year working on the Mira Awards. So I've been around and doing this for a while now. And I got to tell you, this is probably the most exciting year out of the 18 I've been working on them, but I think also out of the 24. This is the 24th annual Mira Awards. And there are, believe it or not, 10 new or revamped categories this year. And we'll talk about those in a little more detail here, but that's a lot of change. Those are some big changes. Our new CEO, Ting Goody, really did work with me and our board and some other team members on figuring out what's happening on the ground in our industry and in other industries that are very tech enabled and tech heavy. And we wanted to try to better align the award categories with what's happening out there in tech and other industries. So I'm really excited about that. That does mean that there are a lot of new opportunities for you to participate maybe in a category that didn't exist before, or there may be a category that's more appropriate for you and the achievements that you've made over the course of the last year, or whatever most appropriate time frame that is there. So I think that's a cool thing, especially for those of you who would be entering a category for the first time. I think that's a great opportunity, because if you're the first ever to win that award, it's just another feather in your cap, another great opportunity to promote your accomplishments. So I am going to move on to just a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We'll do some welcome and introductions. We'll do an overview of the program and eligibility requirements, offer you some different resources we have available. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the best practices. I think that's kind of the goodies, so to speak, that are part of why you're here today. And then a little bit about video and what you can do with video in your entry. And then we'll open it up to Q&A, and we'll also stay later if you want to stick around and ask additional questions. And then we'll probably end a little earlier than originally scheduled, give you some time back in your day. The people here today that you will want to know and you will probably be in close contact over the next 3 weeks. Me, I'm Joshua. I'm responsible for the entry process and the judging process of the Mira Awards. And then Anna Rao on our team. Anna, you have a new title, don't you?
I'm Senior Events Manager now, so
there we go.
Very exciting.
Anna is responsible for the nominee and sponsor communications and event logistics. She's a wizard. She does such a great job with planning the Mira Awards and creating the experience that I think people have come to really know and appreciate. Is Jess here with us today? I can't see the list.
No, I don't think she's here today.
All right. Well, I'll acknowledge our boss lady, Jessica Stevenson, for those of you who don't know her. She's our vice president of marketing, and she has been such a valuable addition to our team over the last 2 years. And really, I think kind of helped us up level a lot of the things we're doing. So if you don't know her, feel free to reach out to her on LinkedIn. Do the same for Anna and me, and just love having those connections with all of you. I am not going to spend time showing you the experience video from last year, but if you're new to the Mira Awards and have not attended or haven't attended in a while, I would watch the Mira Awards experience video that I believe Anna is going to pop into the chat there. And it'll give you a good sense of what it's like and what you could expect this year, because we're planning on bigger and better. In fact, our theme, and all of you are hearing this for the very first time, our theme for 2023 is going to be level up. So in the last few years, we had Be Bold, Rise Up. Last year was Together. And this coming year, it's going to be Level Up. Has multiple meanings. I won't get into all of that now, but we're looking forward to having some fun with that theme for this year's awards gala coming up in April. So watch that video when you get a moment. All right, just a very quick overview. The Mira Awards were created in 1999 as a way to really kind of lift up examples of excellence and innovation in the tech community. It's really kind of maintained that purpose for a long time, trying to find those stories of success, which then help to inspire new success and the next wave of entrepreneurs, the next R&D achievements, and really, I think, establishing who some of those leaders are early on, and then seeing all of that come true over the years, seeing companies win a startup award at the beginning of their company story, and then 10 years later they're winning a scale up award or a product of the year or something like that. It's an exciting progression to see. What's at stake is truly millions of dollars worth of value in promotion, brand awareness, connection to tech talent and investors. It really is. We've what do you call that? Not monetized it, we've calculated it based on all kinds of metrics, but in particular, if you think about the media exposure and its value, it's really pretty remarkable what nominees and winners alike get out of it. It's not just the winners who realize that value, it's basically anyone who's participating and associated with the awards program. How many awards have we given out? It's been over 2,000 Mira Award nominees over the 24-year program history, and just 276 winners. So over 24 years, there are only 276 Mira Award winners. So it is a pretty still a pretty exclusive award. There aren't a lot of people who can say, I'm a Mira Award winner. And so we like that piece of the puzzle to stay fairly exclusive from a numbers standpoint, and really make the award something of value that means something, that has that kind of gravitas and weight to it when people learn that you've been selected as an award winner. Do any of you know what the Mira Awards stand for? People often think it's an acronym, but it's really not. It actually is for those of you who may know astronomy. The Mira Awards began as the Cyber Star Awards back when TechPoint was INITA, the Indiana Information Technology Association. And then INITA merged with the Indiana Technology Partnership and became TechPoint. So those Cyber Star Awards we wanted to rename them as cyber became more cybersecurity and less of it's kind of like when we talk about interwebs or internet and things like that. It's just one of those terms that became a little more specialized. And so we needed a new name for Cyberstar Awards, and the star theme continues because Mira is the brightest of the variable stars that are named and shining in the night sky. It's also the Latin root word meaning wonderful, miraculous. So that's where the Mira name comes from. And some resources I want to draw your attention to. Pretty much everything you need is available at miraawards.com. I believe it redirects to techpoint.org/something, but all you need to know is miraawards.com, and that'll get you to the website that has access to the category descriptions, to stories about winners from last year if you wanted to take a look and research a little bit of that and kind of better understand what the judges have acknowledged in the past. You'll also find there the sponsor prospectus. I don't involve myself in sponsorship very much. I stick to the entry and judging portions, but I like to at least mention it, that it is something that's available to you. The sponsorship of the Mira Awards is a pretty big deal. It kind of puts you out front as a community leader. And it really is a very big night. And from a networking standpoint, I would recommend that. Yes, so that you know, I will make sure that we email this presentation out to all of you with the included links so that you've got record of it. And there will be a video as well. And we'll just distribute all of this back to you afterwards so that you aren't searching around for certain links. Thank you. I'm assuming it's Anna Sutter. I'm getting ready to show you a video that's Anna. So pronunciations. Then a couple other things for resources. The entry form that you find when you go to the website and click to enter the awards, that's the reviewer platform, which we'll take a look at here in a moment. But I also want to call your attention to, you can click and open a PDF or download a Microsoft Word version of every single form and question for every category. So every category has one primary essay, which is, why do you deserve a Mira Award? But then there are 5 specialized category or criteria questions that are different for each of those categories. And that way you can, instead of entering something online and then maybe not getting back to it, and the form times out after 2 hours just from a security standpoint, because sometimes we're asking for either confidential or just non-public information. And so instead of having to go through that and deal with any kind of frustration of timeouts or things, we wanted to provide all those questions in one place so you could easily prepare your application or prepare your entry and then just copy and paste those things over into the actual form. In the past, we have had character limits on things. I believe we've taken all of those off. We still have the recommendation that the primary essay is 500 to 800 words max, and all the short answer criteria questions are 250 words max. So we're trying to give you enough space to provide the story you're wanting to tell, but we also want to encourage you to get rewarded for brevity when it's going to the judges, because they definitely they read everything that you submit and watch everything and look at all the photos and diagrams or whatever you might attach. But if you're getting right to the point, providing the information they need to make a decision, and nothing more than that, they really appreciate it. So those entry form versions are available. It's actually right at the top of the form. When you go to the nomination form, right there are links to both a PDF version and a Microsoft Word version. So feel free to use those. I'd highly recommend that. Then the reviewer platform, I'm going to show you a little bit here too. The reviewer platform looks like this. So when you click on the nomination form at the miraawards.com website, it'll look like this. You'll see the entry form come across. And really, it's very straightforward. I don't, want to spend too much time here with this, because it's not a difficult thing to do unless you're logged in as an administrator, and I can't show it to you the way I want to. But it will, if I can get it, there we go. No, that's not it either. Give me 1 second to find what I'm looking for here. There we go. All you have to do is create an account, and then it'll take you right into the form. And that form looks like this. And we've consolidated everything this year into one form if you're nominating yourself or if you're nominating someone else, and then it just through logic sends you on your way to the appropriate places. But if you're entering on your own behalf for yourself or your own company, you'll just identify I'm entering myself or my company, and then it'll take you through the questions. And once you choose the category, in this particular case, I identified I'm looking at Digital Innovation Awards, and I'm doing Disruptor of the Year. And then it provides you the criteria questions for the Disruptor of the Year. So I think it's fairly straightforward. After that, there are just some of those basics about when the company was founded, number of employees, things like that. And we do ask in the company categories for company annual revenue. We prefer that in a dollar amount or an annual percentage growth, if possible. We know that not everyone has permission to do that, and we don't want that to be something that prevents you from participating. I will tell you that the judges will often ask that question back and see if they can get some kind of a range or anything like that. But I wanted you to at least know that if you're not allowed to do it, if you can share any kind of scope, do that in the blank. It'll accept any answer you put in. But if it's just not possible, just put that in the blank and go ahead and submit the entry, and we'll deal with the lack of that information in the judging room. They still would want to be able to see what you've accomplished and provide feedback if there's any kind of like, you know what, if we could just know this or that, then that'd really give us a better sense. So I think generally speaking, that's something to know about this process, is that we are much more interested in getting a great story and identifying what you've achieved and sharing that with the community than we are you filling out a specific blank with this specific. That's not nearly as valuable to us or the community as sharing something cool that you've done. Okay, so and then you just hit submit and you'll get a confirmation email. You'll also see a confirmation page here. Uh,
Joshua, you've
feel
got
free-
a couple questions in the chat. One is, can an entry be submitted in more than one category? I think you'll probably get to that.
Mhm.
And the other question is, revenue numbers are not published, correct? Just used for the judging.
That's correct. The revenue numbers are only a matter of the only way they're ever used is in aggregate. So we'll say like representing $22 billion worth of revenue, the nominees for this year's Mira Awards employ 42,000 people in the state of Indiana and the world, that kind of thing. That's the only way that information is ever used, but it's all kept confidential. The judges can access it as they're reviewing, but they can't download it. And the only person who has access to all of it is me. In the 18 years I've been associated with this program, we've never once had a breach that I'm aware of. Never a complaint that we, did anything that compromised the information. So I think you can rest assured that that'll be fine. You can also note that, let's see, I think I had it here. Yes. On under choosing a category was, can you enter more than one category? Yes, you can. We'll talk about that in more detail here momentarily. And not only can you, but I encourage you to. There are, this is not the type of awards program where you only qualify for one category. The categories are, they cross kind of a spectrum of what businesses do. Some of them are product oriented, some of them are company oriented, some of them are R&D oriented. So I think you'll see that in greater detail with the categories that you really could qualify for and should enter more than one category as relevant. That's not to say try to go enter every single one, just the ones that make the most sense. Okay, eligibility. The Mira Awards do recognize achievement in the past year. So we're looking at calendar year 2022 for the most part. That's kind of the general idea. However, there are a lot of things that take years, like developing a product. Maybe we launched it in 2022, or maybe we launched it in 2021, and it had a major milestone in 2022. Like we launched it, it started getting some traction in 2021, but in 2022, we sold it into Best Buy and it was a banner year for that product, and that type of thing is what we're looking at. Again, we're not so concerned with a strict reading of a particular rule. We're more looking for the spirit of things. And that's why we focus on a major milestone during that specified period. We do require that work is done in Indiana by Indiana-based companies with Indiana employees. That's not to say that we don't recognize that the world has changed quite a bit and that there are teams that are global in scope. However, we want to make sure that we're recognizing the best of tech in Indiana, that if it's a project that was executed entirely outside of the state of Indiana and with minimal participation from Indiana employees, that's not really what we're looking for here. But if it's a global team and maybe it was the strategy coming out of Indiana and some of the execution, and then you had a global supplier somewhere else in the world, or a team all over the US, that's great. That's perfectly acceptable. In fact, we love that. We love to be able to tell that story. But just make sure that we're looking at the best of tech in Indiana. So, and then I think, that last one I've already kind of touched on. If it's originated here, done by a team here, driven by employees here. A little bit about the process. How am I doing on time? Okay. There are 50 plus, I think this year it'll be like 58 judges. They make up 4-person panels for each category. No 2 categories have the same judges. So if you're entering in the Disruptor of the Year category, and you're also entering in the Scale Up of the Year category, those are 2 separate judging panels. So I think that's important to note, that if you submit 2 or 3 entry forms, the same people aren't going to be reading all of them. It'll be different people reading them. I think for me, that's important to note, so that if you're filling in one entry form, and there are pieces and parts of that story that you're telling that apply in a second category, it's okay to reuse some of that information. We don't want to require that every single piece and part of your entry form is unique, but those criteria questions and the why do we deserve, what did we achieve, that should be, at least subtly different. But in most cases, if it's a product category versus a company, the product's going to focus on the innovation. What have you achieved? How has it been adopted in the market? What's the go-to market strategy for it? Whereas the company side, it's going to be much more focused on company achievement, revenue, growth, employee development, that kind of thing. So that you can see there that there's 2 different approaches to how you would fill out those entry forms, but who you are and what you do, those types of elements of the application or of the entry form can be the same, because 2 different panels will be reading them. So phase 1 of the process, after you fill out your form and hit that submit button, phase 1 is the judges will read everything. They then score it based on how well you answered the specific questions of why do you deserve the award, and then the specific criteria. And then those scores then determine which applicants end up becoming what we call nominees. So not everyone who fills out a form will be named a nominee. In fact, we usually only take about half. So depending on how many actually enter, about half of those will advance and become nominees. And then we move to phase 2. And by the way, we announced that on Valentine's Day, our love letter to the tech industry. Then we move to phase 2, which is these 20-minute presentations, interviews with the judging panels. It's basically your opportunity to stand in front of the judges and say, this is what we did and why it matters. It's your pitch. For those of you who have pitched to investors for money, we've been told that it's very similar kind of environment to that. That same day that the judges hear from you, they'll do their final deliberations and select a winner. And then I'm the only person who knows who they are, and I have to keep that secret, and it nearly kills me every year. until the gala on April 22nd, and the winners are announced live from the stage. So it's quite an exciting moment when you discover whether or not you've won. We'll get to some of the dates, but I did mention here that March 8th and 9th, you should go ahead and put those dates on your calendar. It'll be one of those 2 dates that will have the live judging. I think the dates are next. Yeah, here we go. So just to recap, the entry forms, they're all due on Friday, January 27th. It's 11:59 p.m. on that Friday. Sometimes I have people panicking at 11 o'clock on Thursday night saying, wait, is it midnight Thursday or midnight Friday? So don't worry about that. It's just, it's midnight on Friday, the 27th. And I always accidentally forget to turn off the form. I don't broadcast that to other people, but for those of you who joined us here today and took the time to be a part of this, you know, we don't, it's similar to what I was talking about before. We don't want to disqualify people because you needed a little more time to get your CEO to read through it and approve what you were doing. That type of thing, again, it's about the story. It's about recognizing innovation and achievement. And so there's a little tip from your friend Joshua. We won't turn off the form, and we won't, you know, say no, you can't participate, but you know, just do your best to get everything in by the deadline. And if something's going wrong and you're you know, struggling, just call me. We'll figure it out together and help you resolve any issues you need. I mentioned Valentine's Day is when we do the Mira Award nominees announcement. That's a very big day because in addition to the press release going out and people learning about who the nominees are, it's also the day that you schedule your live judging interview. This is a big deal because it's going to be in person this year. It's always been in person in the past, but for the last couple of years, we were virtual. And while we love the convenience of virtual, it has missed something. It was, I think, a bit diminished in the way that people experienced the awards program. So it's going to be in person. Details to come. We believe we have a very eager partner who wants people to come to their beautiful and spacious new facility with lots of easy parking. And so we'll have more of those details later. But that February 14th day is very important, to immediately, when you're notified, check with your team, find out who all is presenting, and get your interview and presentation time scheduled right away. Then the sponsorship commitment deadline is March 24th for those of you who might be interested in that. And then the gala is on April 22nd. We'll remind you of all these things when you hit the submit button on your entry. You'll also get an email with this information. You'll also see a confirmation screen with this information. And Anna and I both will probably send you 4 or 5 emails that have this information as well. So we try to reinforce this because it's not fun when you find out that you've advanced and then the people who are, you know, a big deal and a part of that can't participate because they're traveling to Europe or they're, you know, on vacation. Or so if you can try to get those dates on your and other people's calendars who would be participating in a presentation, it's a good idea to do it. It's not always possible, but that's a tip. Okay. Let's go through some category type things. For those of you who have not already seen it, the Mira Awards website When you go to this site, miraawards.com, this center button takes you to the awards categories, and it has the descriptions of each one. And I hope it's helpful. I put new next to every one of them that's new this year. So you can click through all of these and see what the focus is for these specific categories. It also lets you know if something is adjudicated or if something is selected. There are a couple of awards like Deal of the Year, which is new. There's also TechPoint Foundation for Youth Bridge Builder Award. And then I think TechPoint Trailblazer is the third one, where they are chosen by either TechPoint Foundation for Youth or by the TechPoint Executive Committee. It's just those couple of awards. All the rest are evaluated by the judges. In fact, the same document that I was talking about earlier, which is, I think it is this one. This is the Word version of the questions of all the forms. It takes you through, and each one of them has the description of the category. So if you download that same form, you can get all the information you need about those descriptions for each category. If you want something that's a little easier, that's just those descriptions, I'm sure I can throw that together for you fairly quickly. So if you wanted to, just shoot me a note and I'll take care of that. But if this will suffice, that's great. Let's get back here. So those categories, check those out on the website if you haven't already. I think it can be a little difficult to determine what category is most appropriate for you. And that's where read through the descriptions, huddle with your team, find out what you think makes the most sense, but don't hesitate to shoot me an email or pick up the phone and call me, and I'm happy to talk through that. If you want to get a little more formal, you can use my Calendly. Maybe it's toward the end. But my Calendly link is in here. You can schedule a 15-minute call. We can talk about your entry. We can talk about the most appropriate categories. TechPoint pays me to do this, and I like doing it, and I like talking to people. So feel free to pick up the phone and call me. We'll work through it and help you put your best foot forward and be in the right category. Okay. Again, 10 new categories. Take a look at those. There are some tried and true categories that will look familiar. Rising Entrepreneur Award, Startup of the Year, Scale Up of the Year, that type of thing. But there are quite a few new ones as well. I think I mentioned before, yes, you may enter more than one category, and you probably should. I think that it increases your chances on the recognition side. I would say, again, make it make sense. Don't just slap an entry together and put it in multiple categories. I don't think that's going to do you any good, and it's just going to be more work for the judges and me weeding out things that aren't necessarily relevant. But where it's appropriate, please do consider entering more than one category. Like I said, make it make sense. You're either a startup or a scale up, but you're not both, so don't enter both of those categories. Similar with product side, you're either a pre-market R&D development phase product, or you're a product that's actually launched and in market. So, just look at those as your limiters. Outside of that, though, Exceptional Employer Award and Scale Up of the Year, sure, those make sense, because Exceptional Employer Award is more of the, who are you as an organization? What have you done to attract people to your company, and how are you helping to train that talent? Versus the Scale Up category, which is much more focused on company performance and growth. So that's where I think, you can determine what makes the most sense for you. Sometimes you have a great year because your company performed really well, but you didn't launch any new product. It's just you came into your own and you really did well growth wise, but you don't have a new product to enter. Similarly, in other categories, that sometimes it makes really good sense to enter these two, but the one that you entered the year before maybe doesn't work anymore for you. And again, it's I talk about it in the sense that every year is another opportunity to achieve greatness, and so you can look at it as um, uh, doing what makes the most sense for what you have achieved, not what category did we enter last year? Well, we'll enter the same one. Maybe it's not the best option for you anymore. I think that works everything there. Some best practices that I think we should cover is if you've filled out forms like this before, you may not have known this, but people like me, we like to design it so that it tells a story. And so if you look at the way this form is built, it should be more progressive. So the first question is kind of what did you do? What's the big idea here? And then the criteria question and all the subsequent blanks help to build that story. So you've got a big idea and then you've got supplemental supports. So if you think about it in that way, it's kind of like a word count wise, like an 800-word blog post. Yes, it takes a little bit of preparation. You might need to grab some information from other folks and get some input, but generally speaking, if you can write an 800-word blog post, you can fill out this form and provide an award-winning entry. We've had people who just try to put the kitchen sink and everything else in there, and it's really not necessary. We've had, and in fact, I would say more of the winners have been those who focused on just telling their story of achievement than those who do in 1964 so and so did. We don't really need that. We can access that if we need more context. What I would focus on is this is what we achieved and this is why it matters, and here's the criteria questions that you asked about. So focus on it that way. I would also take a look at the local, state, and community and kind of national or global relevance. If you can put things into that kind of a context, that it's not just that we did this cool thing, but this is why it matters for our company or for this community, or this is what impact it could have nationally or globally. That's always a perspective that I think the judges appreciate. And then I would say, I think I already hit this, is that, we think of it as an investor pitch. You want the sizzle, but you don't want the fluff. You want to provide the information they need to make a decision. You don't want them to have to spend time wading through things that don't drive to that main idea. Okay, I want to show you a quick video. And this is because I think everyone should record and submit a video with their entry. And the reason is because in the past, we have had judges who said that, this particular entry didn't really speak to me when I was reading through them all. I didn't quite understand the scope of what they were doing, or I couldn't envision what they were talking about. And then when they presented in the room, they were their first choice. They were blown away. And so I think that's where we, with video, can really help to bring the judges along with you and your story and what it is you're entering for what it is you've achieved. And so I just wanted to quickly show you a really good example of what a great video to enter with your awards entry would be.
Hi judges, my name is Anna Haldwang. I am the founder and CEO of Insight Track, a precision robotics company. I'm out in California this January testing on a prototype for winter sanitation for the almond industry. Now you may be asking yourself, what is winter sanitation? Well, during the almond harvest, not every almond is ready to be harvested. Once the leaves fall from the trees in the winter, those leftover almonds then turn rotten and are called mummies. Now there's this pest called navel orangeworm, and it is the #1 pest problem for growers. It will burrow inside of this mummy and hibernate in the wintertime, and then in the spring it'll emerge, damaging the quality and yield of next year's crop. Now the best time to remove this costly pest is in the winter when they are at their weakest. And the Almond Board of California has set a standard that there be 2 mummies or less per tree in order to have the best start to your crop year. Growers will bring in mechanical shakers and they'll shake the bottoms of the trees for a few seconds and the mummies will drop. However, this only works during a fog or after a rain when mummies are at their heaviest. If a grower comes in with a shaker on a bright, sunshiny, dry day, it's just not effective. Plus, you have no control of how many mummies actually fall from the trees. And while they're shaking the trunks, they're also knocking buds off, which affects next year's yield. So as a last resort, growers have to hire hand pullers to come in with 15-foot bamboo sticks and hit and poke each mummy out of the tree. Plus, they're also knocking buds off while they're doing it, affecting next year's yield. So as you can imagine, this is very costly and it's backbreaking work, and growers are struggling to find people to come in and actually do this job. So I've invented a way to automate this method. I have a ground robot that's going to roll down the middle of the orchard and use a target, remove, report method. It will target, so it'll identify the mummy in the tree with its Orchard ID camera system using artificial intelligence. After the mummy is targeted, it's then removed by shooting biodegradable pellets in a safe, accurate, and eco-friendly way. While the rover is identifying and removing mummies from the trees, it's also gathering valuable data about every tree, every variety, and every acre in the orchard. So for example, we'll be able to show a grower how many mummies we removed in total, how many mummies we removed per variety. Even we'll present them a heat map in the end that will be able to show them where they were heaviest in the orchards with mummies. So over time, the grower is able to problem solve as to why certain parts of their orchard received mummies the heaviest. Now, growers have never had access to this type of data before, and so we are going to revolutionize the ag industry with this product. Thank you very much for your time. I got to get back to testing. Bye.
Okay, so that was under 3 minutes, and she was able to, I think, effectively explain what she invented, why it matters, and what kind of impact it could have on the industry. I just think that's a great example of a very low-tech way you can try to tell your story to the judges, and they get to see your face or the face of whomever it is on your team who would be doing this. There's possible demonstration. You can get a little visual of what you're talking about. I just think it's a great way to go about basically opening up your entry when the judges see it. It's not something you have to do. You have to fill out the online entry form. You don't have to do a video, but I strongly recommend it. And I also strongly recommend not doing anything more advanced than an iPhone or a simple just put it on a tripod and point calendar or camera kind of thing, because fancy doesn't impress the judges here. They just want the information. And so if you can get something like this done and included with your entry, that's the way to go. If you have more questions there, let me know. Let's see. I'm going to get to the last couple of things here. I mentioned earlier about my Calendly. Please do schedule time with me. The earlier the better, I would say, but maybe spend a little time with your team talking about what categories you think are most appropriate, what you want to enter, which particular projects, that type of thing. And then let's meet and talk through that. Let's see if there was something else. I think that's it for me. I'd really like to just open it up to questions and see what I can answer for you at this point, how I might be a good resource for you. It looks like there is a specific question here. If we're submitting our company for multiple awards, should we submit a video explaining who we are as an organization? It's a good question. I don't know that I would do a whole separate video on just like the company or just who you are as an org. I think you could do that in a quick couple of minute video that's specific to the entry. So if it's a company category award like startup or scale up, you could talk about your company performance, and you could also mention, oh yeah, my company does X or Y, and we're a leader in this particular portion of the market, that type of thing. I don't know that there's a lot of value in doing a whole separate video that you would attach to every one of the same entry forms. I hope that answers that for you. What other questions might you have? I think we're ending a little early, like I promised. If you're submitting on someone's behalf, would you still recommend submitting a video? I would, if you feel like it's going to help. Sometimes when you're telling someone else's story, you are passionate about it, and you feel like, you know what, I can't believe that Anna Rao isn't better known and people haven't been singing her praises publicly. It's time. We need to do something. I get that part. That's where I would think, if you feel like your passion is going to come across and influence the judges or influence the person you're nominating to participate, great. If you feel like, you know what, this is more about just making sure they're a part of the mix, and that they've achieved a great thing, and you want to make sure they get a notification, that's the way that works, by the way. You fill out the form, you're nominating someone else, you just write a couple sentences about why you're nominating them or what they've done that you think is worthy of recognition, and then you put in your information, their information, and the system sends an email to them saying, hey, in this case, Joshua has nominated you, Anna, for a Mira Award. All we need you to do now is click here, choose the best category for you, and fill out the rest of the questions. So it all ends up becoming one big form. The judges will see what you wrote. They'll see a video if you uploaded it, and then they'll see the answers to the questions that the actual person you nominated filled out, which are the same questions that are on the rest of the entry form, as if you were nominating yourself. Okay, more questions here. I can't see them because the little bar's over it. There we go. Do you recommend a team presentation for the live interviews or just one representative? I would say it's whatever best tells your story. Sometimes it's better to have the technical professional there, as well as the sales or business or leadership representative. A CEO and a director of engineering is highly appropriate. Often the people who don't plan ahead and don't reserve dates on people's calendars, if they come and it's just, a couple of people like me, the marketing person or the behind the scenes person who doesn't really know what happened or doesn't know the story, that's not going to serve you well. Also, sending in 6 people to tell one story in 20 minutes is difficult because of transitions, and you're telling this and you're telling this and you're telling this, and it gets a little messy, and I just don't know that it's necessary. I would say, probably 3 people max, 2's better. If you're by your lonesome, it's not going to hurt anything, but I would say, keep it smaller, but 1 to 3 people's perfectly fine and typical. If it relates to the category, would it be recommended to share videos that we have already created for marketing? I would say yes, as supplemental information. I would not upload it as your primary video. And those are 2 separate places you would upload them. There's a primary video at the top of the form that you would upload as your explainer video. And then you could also upload additional videos under the supplemental materials section. So that could work fine. By Cedric, thank you. I wonder how we can highlight ourselves as an advocate for folks, creating space, giving access. Well, that would be, Dorothy, a specific category for accelerators, which is the Entrepreneurial Service Provider Award. So take a look at that category. And you'll probably get an email from me next week inviting you to enter, because that's a great one. Thank you, Claire. Is the live interview just if you're nominated or for all submissions? It's just if you are selected by the judges to advance as a nominee. Everyone is an entrant or an applicant, but only people who are selected by the judges to move on are called nominees. So you only do the presentation if you're selected as a nominee. Can early stage companies participate, or do you expect companies with more traction and revenue? I think it depends on how early stage. If you can't prove the model, or you can't prove that you have a product that people want to buy, I would say it's probably a little too early. But I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how early stage we're talking about. I know that oftentimes the Elevate Ventures Nexus companies are a little too early, which is their whole point with them. They're trying to encourage more entrepreneurial activity, whereas we're trying to recognize achievement of the entrepreneurial activity. So if it's a great idea, but the company the product doesn't really exist yet, that type of thing, it might be a little early. I would just say, shoot me an email or call me and we can talk specifics if you need to. Who else has questions? If there are no further questions, I will say thank you to all of you. We are now 1 minute over. And I'll just say, like I said, they pay me to do this. So reach out to me, let me know what questions you might have. Happy to talk through things with you. check out my Calendly. Happy to meet with you. Happy to meet with you and other people at your company. Just want to make sure you're getting everything you need to put your best foot forward and become one of those elite Mira Award winners that we love to promote and tell everyone's story. Okay. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.